Okay, I think we'll get underway. So good morning to everyone. My name's Stuart Ogilvie. I'm the business director at Aspria. Thanks for joining us up at Optimise and the third session where we're going to talk about how Xerox is making work with apps and cloud document solutions. So how can we use technology to help us work more efficiently? We've invited along Mark Voigt from one of our top partners to talk you through that. He's going to take you through a series of slides. And then if there are any questions along the way, by all means, feel free to pop those into the chat. We can either answer the questions as we go, or we can have a Q&A session at the end. It's entirely up to everyone how they want to do that. So over to you, Mark.
Wonderful. Thanks, Stuart. Yes. So good morning, everybody. Yes. So my name is Mark Boyd and I head up software marketing at Xerox. And I must admit, I'm delighted to be here today. I've literally just got back from holiday. So I'm still in that wonderful mellow period, still getting back to normal working life. So this is the perfect time to have this type of conversation. So what we're going to be talking about really is how we overcome everyday challenges in the office. We all tend to have these some moments where we receive a document and we don't know how to proceed. It's not quite right for us to extract or do what we need to do with that document. Or sometimes it's about our own processes. Sometimes we have processes that have lots of manual steps and become very time consuming or mundane. Or we have processes that don't quite connect, don't quite need to do what they do. So what we do is human nature takes over and we start to do lots of manual steps to make them work. So what this session is really all about is how we can make our lives easier and remove those issues, remove those painful challenges, remove those steps out of the processes and just make our working lives easier. Because the reality is technology has moved on. We now have a situation where an MFP, a multifunction printer, that used to be somewhat limited to print, copy, scan, fax, now is a platform for doing so much more. And you combine that with the cloud as a platform to do huge processing away from our devices, which means the capacity, the capability is extended hugely. And even with mobile technology, all of this combines, say, to give us those platforms, those steps where we can make our lives easier. So that's what today is all about, is going through that. So the reality is there's lots of challenges in the marketplace today. And funny enough, I was thinking about this morning when I was preparing for this. Now, I've been with Xerox now for 30 years, and there's always been challenges around us, always these market forces. At times they're stronger, different, etc. It does feel as if we are going through quite a challenging period at the moment. Having come out of COVID, there's been a lot of change as a consequence of that. Clearly, we were all forced to work from home for some time, but it's led to lots of people thinking about where they want to work, which has led to huge work style shifts and people now choosing to work from home or even move to the country, move to different countries to work from there. Clearly, we have some economy challenges around us as well, which always put strain onto what we do. And there's this whole thing about exponential data growth. People are storing more and more data. But the other side to that, of course, is it's then finding that data with that huge piles of information stored in places. How do you release that information? How do you get it when you need it? Security is very, very much top of people's minds today. Again, some of that is linked to this whole adjustment of now where people work. But security can also be issues around how people deal with data, the simple things of someone traveling on a train and leaving that data behind. And of course, we have climate, quite rightly now, is very much at the top of the agenda, sustainability and how we make sure the planet is fit for our children that follow us. And we also have this desire, obviously, to be more self-sufficient, more capable, and therefore our expectations, very much driven from the mobile phone world, is that everything should be one button simple. So all of these factors are around us. All of these things are moving us forward, etc., putting pressure on various steps. So the question becomes, what do we need to do to be able to manage these and move forward? And the answer, we believe, is very straightforward. we need to create a workplace that allows the worker to have the right tools, the capabilities, etc., to be successful wherever they choose to work. So it's all about enabling our employees to be high performing, resilient, deal with all of the challenges that come their way, and make sure that's possible wherever they choose to work, whether that's on the go, at home, or indeed in the office. And there's three things, therefore, we believe need to be very much in place to make that possible. The first one is all about the user experience. The second one is about, again, supporting people wherever they work. And the third one is all about then taking those steps out of the processes that frees up people's time to focus on what really matters. So when it comes to user experience, as I said, what's really changed now is people's expectations. People's expectations of everything should be intuitive and simple, which makes total sense, because that's exactly how people can move forward, people can do what they need to do. When you think about the world we live in today, there's less support. That's either less support because there's less people, or less support because actually I'm at home and clearly outside of the normal IT infrastructure. So we all have to be far more self-sufficient, and therefore something that's intuitive makes it so much easier, therefore, to us to manage that and make it possible. And of course, then we can go even further and use things like augmented reality to make that experience even better. So it's all about giving the right user experience to keep people active and completing their tasks. The second thing is all about supporting people wherever they work. And the whole point here is that it should not be a difference whether I'm working from home or in the office. I should be able to do the same things. It should be seamless. I should be able to get started, up and running, no issues at all. And sometimes that may mean, I need to print at home. Sometimes I need to print in the office. Sometimes I need to scan while I'm traveling. All of those things should be made possible so people can be effective and productive wherever they work. And the last thing is all about these processes. And as I mentioned before, we are driven by processes in all of our businesses. It makes businesses tick. And sometimes, those processes get strained. Sometimes it's because of there's breakages in those processes. And that could be because of things like paper, which how do I release that information in that paper to go to the next step of the process? Or indeed, it could be a reflection of what's happened with, again, now people working in different ways, working from home. Those processes don't quite connect. But what we can definitely do is look to technology to remove those unproductive steps and just make the whole thing work better. So with all of those things in place, absolutely, we believe we can help that augmented worker to be far more productive and successful. And clearly what's key to a lot of those is going to be cloud, mobile, and app technology. And that's how we believe we can deliver unstoppable productivity. So it is about considering the differences, the needs of working from home, the office, on the go, and making it possible that you can indeed print at the point of need, or indeed scan, digitize a document at the point of need, access the information, but make sure at each time it's secure, so you've got no risk, but also sustainable, that we're not adding to the challenges of the earth, but making it so much better, so much simpler, and say right for the children that are going to live in the world in the future. But it's also about making it future-proof, adopting technologies that will grow and expand as your needs change. So this is what we desire to do, is deliver that unstoppable productivity. I say, and the key enablers clearly for that are going to be the cloud and apps and AI, machine learning, all of these wonderful new technologies that take those steps and pain, as I said, out of the processes. So let's look at a few examples. So one of the challenges, back to that point of potentially printing from home, is I need a printer device, small device, but I'm away now from the IT. So how do I get it installed? How do I get it up and running? How do I keep it that way? And this is where one of our first apps, the Xerox Easy Assist app, comes in, because it's designed to do just that. Make it very simple, intuitive to get that machine up and running, but very importantly, keep it that way. So if an issue happens, such as you're running out of toner, it'll do all those alerts and make it simpler then to go and get that replacement toner. It also makes it very simple in terms of connecting to any issues. So for example, a typical challenge like a potential paper jam, how do I remove that paper? This app will then quickly link to augmented reality. So wonderful interactive videos that clearly show step by step with the device how to solve those problems. So power in the palm of your hand to get that printer up and running and keep it there, and therefore become effective in the daily working. So that's great for individuals working from home. When you come into the office, and now it's more about shared devices, it's a different requirement. This is where print management comes in. So this is the perfect add-on if you've got a few devices to keep all those devices now in the same way, up and running, etc. But it also makes it so much easier for people to access those devices. So starting with print management, the first thing print management solutions do is give you that control over who can access the device and what they can do at the device. So it supports wonderful capabilities like badge sign-in, or even using your mobile phone to sign in, so you know who the person is. And then you can allocate specific capabilities or access to certain functions on the device through that login capability. Of course, this part of this process is also managing all of the costs associated with that device. So it's adding up all the printing, who's printing, etc. So you have an ability to analyze and control that. But it also goes further. It brings a wonderful capability like content security. So back to, you may have some very confidential documents. Maybe some of them even, you have a strict capability at the bottom where it says this document must not be printed. What content security does is always analyze the documents as they're scanned, printed, or copied. And what it will do, if it detects any of those documents you've set up that need to be monitored, it will alert you that this individual has done something, and therefore you can take the appropriate action. It also goes further now, and it does homeworker tracking as well. So this will link to any devices that your employees may have at home and give the ability to see what they're printing to, which gives you therefore that total picture of all the print that's happening. And that again is the beauty of the cloud that just makes it possible to see devices wherever they are, not the same network. It also extends that capability around printing. Again, people may not be in the office all the time, so they may not be naturally have all the drivers for the right devices, but the print management solution can solve that. It can mean when that person is detected near a device and then when it anticipates they want to print, it can download the right driver to them. Or it can deliver what we call pull printing, or that ability to effectively send to a print queue. You don't need to know which device it is until you walk up to it, and that's when you badge in and your document then will follow you to that device. So again, just simplifies those processes of when people do come to the office, that they can be efficient, up and running very quickly. And again, we also have app capability. So again, in here, this app almost becomes like a remote control for the device. So you don't actually have to walk up to the machine itself. You can control it from your mobile as if it was, say, a remote control panel. You also have the capability with this type of solution of being able to print from home to the office. So in preparation for your next day's activities, send the jobs to the printer. When you walk into the office next day, swipe in and release them, and you're up and running straight away. So a huge amount of capability, to solve everyday print challenges and put you in control and minimize any issues for setup, etc., as workers come back into the office. So that's about print, but probably the biggest opportunity really when it comes to apps and cloud, etc., and solving those problems is really going to be around digitization, which is all about how you can take value on a piece of paper and release it. So take that information, whether that's extracting it, converting it, etc., or simply putting it in a place where it's more accessible to others by digitizing and storing. So this is probably the fastest growing activity on an MFP today, is the rise in digitization, as people are realizing that accessing this information is critical. And the best way to do that is to digitize it and store it, and then give people the access and the capability to process those documents whenever they need to. So capturing and converting can be as simple as using the scanner on the MFP, but it can also be utilizing, again, the mobile phone as a virtual way of capturing that information. But it's all about getting it and then doing something with it, routing it, processing, etc. And this is where, again, a lot of processes today have a lot of manual steps. So people might be capturing those documents, downloading them to their PC, then uploading them to another process. So this is where, again, apps can come in as a way of simplifying, removing those steps and taking it directly from the scanner to the place where you need to make it accessible. And of course, what's a lot around this is also then this whole thing about security, making sure that now that file is digital, it can also make it therefore a lot easier to share. So how do you make sure you put the right secure processes around that to minimize leakage and cover all those eventualities? So huge opportunity around digitalization to really improve the worker and how they access information wherever they are. One of the greatest apps I think we've introduced in the last couple of years that really addresses that scanning from home issue or an individual scanning device is with the print and scan experience. So for those of you that have tried to set up a small device at home to directly connect and scan, it can be quite challenging. No longer with the print and scan experience. When you download the print driver, this is basically a companion app that downloads alongside, and it instantly connects to that device, gives you that simple path therefore for scanning, but it also adds a huge amount of powerful capability into it. Simple buttons, again, if you like, apps built into the experience. So for example, I could scan a document. What's programmed into here is all of those wonderful things that would adjust the scan, straighten it up, remove the unnecessary things in the background, etc. And it even goes further. One of my favorite parts is scan receipts. For those of you that are getting back into traveling and you get a number of receipts, the pain of having to scan those individually to claim back. Not so with this. You can put all those scans on the platen, hit scan receipts, and it will individually separate those out into individual files. And goes even further, this will connect to the platform I'll explain a little bit further called the Workflow Central. So even from our smallest, simplest devices, we've made that digitization experience simple and powerful, and it has these wonderful connectors and can connect indeed into Workflow Central. When it comes to the shared devices, this is where our Connect Key technology takes over. And this is where we're basically building what we call a workplace assistant. So just like our personal lives have changed with the mobile phone and the ability to have apps on there that turn them really from that ability to make a call to being our personal assistant, enabling us to do so much more, the same applies to a Connect Key device. This is now our workplace assistant. We can add unlimited apps onto those devices that simply connect and do all the things that we need to do in the office in a very simple way. And the beauty of an app, it is that simple little bit of information data, little processing. It does what it says on the tin. It makes it so simple to directly connect to something. So intuitive by its name on the piece, very direct and simple in terms of what it does. So let me just give you a few examples of those things and what they can do. So some of them are about connecting to key business systems. So in our offices, we have systems where we need to interact on a daily basis. Sometimes we need to get paper documents digitized and move to them. Now today, again, what a lot of people might do is digitize them first, put them onto their PC and then upload them. But with these types of connector apps, they're basically creating a pipe between the device, the MFP, and that system, which allows you therefore to scan directly into it. So a good example here would be Salesforce. For those who use Salesforce, a salesperson might have been out, got a contract signed, he's brought it back in. What he needs to do is to put it into Salesforce so others then can set up the account and do the various onboarding. So this will create a direct pipe between the device. So as you scan it in, you can put it into the very specific folder it needs to go in and then ready for everyone else to use. But it also works the other way around as well. If you need to get something from Salesforce and print it, likewise, you can do that directly from the MFP2, go through, navigate the folders, find the file and print it back. One of the most used processes or very common process for printing, in fact, is getting documents signed. So just to get that, the signature on a document. So we also have apps like this one here, Connect for DocuSign, that just make that digital signature process a stronger, better alternative. So a way of forwarding those documents on and from the device itself being able to sign and authorize those, avoiding the need to print. So apps that just make connection to your big key business systems simpler and faster. Then we have apps that make it simple to connect to any cloud repository. So whether that's Microsoft OneDrive, Google OneDrive, again, same principle there. It's creating that pipe that just avoids those unnecessary steps, which also means avoiding multiple files, etc. So you can move a document very quickly into any of those cloud systems. Apps aren't just there for digitization, they also provide a huge amount of capability and support. This one here, Support Assistant, is exactly that. By hitting this button, you can actually see all of the orders for toner that sits behind it. You can see the service interactions. You can see if an engineer is on the way, when they're expected to arrive, all of those things from that simple button push, just giving that information. And then we have a whole host of apps which are all around, again, just adding productivity, simplifying processes, adding more value into our working lives. A great example of that is the Summarizer app. So this is where, if I've got a large document, let's say a 20-page report that I need to read, but I've left it short, I've only got a couple of hours before the critical meeting, what I can do is use Summarizer to reduce that down. And I've got two choices. I can use the extractive or the abstractive. Extractive, what it will do is take the document and look for the key salient points in that document, and it'll reduce it down. And you can specify how much you want to reduce it down by, 50%, etc., to make it into that manageable piece. But it's using the same words, just removing the unnecessary words to simplify the document. Well, the abstractive is using AI, artificial intelligence. And what it's doing is actually reading the document, understanding it, and then creating a brand new pricey, reduced version of it, which again is taking those salient points, but rewriting it in a way that makes it even clearer to understand in that shorter form. So great productivity enhancer. And then we've got something like Correct for RMail, which is taking a slightly different approach. This is all about encryption, sending a document and knowing it's secure. So if you've got a critical document you need to send to someone, by using this, it puts the right encryption around it, it confirms it's been received and gives you all that confirmation back. And a good extension of this type of mail is if you were before would used a registered letter, that classic of going down to the post office, queuing up, handing over a document, and the post office will deliver it and give you confirmation back. This is the electronic equivalent of that. You can send it directly from the MFP and get the legal response back, confirmation of receipt, etc., in just the same way. And then we've got apps that focus on all the different verticals: legal, education, retail, health, etc. And this is where, again, the beauty of apps in terms of creating something very specific for a specific task is really brought to life when it comes to verticals, where there are some very specific processes or systems that they need to connect to. A couple of examples here. Connect for Clio. In the legal world, this is a practice management solution. So again, that same logic of I need to get digital files in there or print the files off from it. So this, for them, creates that very specific link. Or ID Checker, something very different. So again, in the retail world, what you often have to do, all the time have to do, is onboard customers. You want to check who they are. You've got their credit card, etc. You want to create an account for them. So you need to validate. What this is doing is checking those documents that are used, i.e. IDs, passports, etc., are indeed valid documents. So it gives that confirmation back and obviously proceed and open those accounts. So just a few examples. We have over 100 apps today in our gallery that can add wonderful value and capability to any of our Connect Key devices. And again, whether used at home or in the office. Now, one of the things I talked about at the start was digitization. And when it comes to digitization, there's a number of things that are happening. Sometimes you are digitizing it for yourself. I've received a document, I need to digitize it because I need to do something. So it's straightforward. I'm scanning it and storing it somewhere for me, and therefore how I name it is very much specific to me, etc. But what we've seen happen a lot in the last couple of years is that world of digitization has moved to where sometimes there are people who are dedicated to doing it. It's their task, They're digitizing documents for others. And sometimes it's multiple people, because different people are working in the office at different times, are doing the same task. And that's where you get this situation where sometimes they bring their personal preferences or the way they do things into it. Because when it comes to digitalization, there's someone who scans it and then someone who accesses it. And as I mentioned before, in terms of this vast amount of data, one of the biggest challenges today sometimes is finding that digital document. Now, if you know the name, or you've put or you've made it a searchable file, maybe there are ways of tracking it down. But if something goes wrong in the naming process, or it's inadvertently stored in the wrong place, that can lead to a huge amount of challenge and confusion for those people trying to find those documents and do what they need to do. So just imagine that contract that never quite gets into the right place doesn't get activated, or worse still, an invoice that came in, again, ends up in the wrong place, never to be found, never for that money to be claimed. So this is where we have just about to launch a whole new app, which brings a whole new set of capabilities, which is really embracing artificial intelligence. And this is what we call our Intelligent Filer app. So what this is doing is when you bring the document up, any person that's doing this, it'll be the same, obviously, process for everyone. They come in and scan that document. Artificial intelligence will now read that document and understand what type of document it is. Clearly, it knows an invoice is laid out like this. It has these key factors, an invoice number, a date, etc. In this case, what's showing is a correspondence, so it's identified it as a letter. It can see there was an address, a dear, etc., etc. So it uses that intelligence to understand what type of document it is. Based upon what document it is, it then starts to suggest, therefore, what that name is. And in fact, what you do beforehand is you say, if it's this type of document, our company naming structure is this. It should have the name, the date, etc., built into the name. So what it's then doing is extracting that information from that document. So ABC company correspondence, that would be in that letter. It stated the receiver was this, the person who sent it was this company, therefore put that into the name. This therefore drives consistency in the naming piece, and say very specific, obviously, to that individual document it pulled it from. And then what you've also preset in the app is this type of document should be filed here. And again, automatically then identifies that and routes it to it. So the whole beauty of this app, I say, is it takes away all of that variability. Because there are some people who scan quickly and just want to get through the process as fast as they can, so they accept whatever name is put up, and very quick, sometimes don't necessarily read where it's gone, hence files get mislaid. Other people are a little bit more slower. They're trying to type the right name in, but again, what they believe is the name should be the name, may not be the standard in the policy, in the company policy, and again, all of this stuff can get lost. That's what this app is all about stopping. And lastly, when it comes to apps, the other great thing about a lot of these is also they're now making life more sustainable, removing lots of steps, as we said, but removing paper or making sure paper doesn't need to be printed. So for example, I mentioned Summarizer before. Just think about that logic of you would have maybe printed that document of 20 pages. By summarizing it down to 10, you reduce the number of pages, you reduce paper. An app like Content Hub allows you to print on demand. So rather than pre-printing 10 brochures, you'd print on demand, and therefore, if you only ever needed to, that's all you ever printed. Digitizing by itself is also removing paper out of the process and also making it easier to store and access. And I mentioned before, our mail and the reducing, therefore, of the registered letter, reducing those from being printed. But we also have apps that also make it just simple in terms of toner collection. So one of the key things is recycling those toners. Here with the EcoBox app, what it allows you to do is to call up and order a big box, which makes it easy to store those toners as they're consumed, and then go back to the app and you can print off a little label, which then ready for collection, and off it goes and recycled very, very simply. And we have an app, this one here is called the Firmware Connect. What this one is all about doing is updating the firmware on the devices. And before, sometimes that would have meant an engineer coming out to do those pieces for you, which would have meant travel. All of this, say, is all done now automatically, remotely, therefore reducing all of that carbon, miles on the road, etc., to go and do some of those visits. So many apps, as I say, really add to that sustainable value. Now, all of that's great, of course, if you are physically in front of an MFP and all that great capability, but that's not always the case. We're back to this point of working remotely, working on the go. Our needs have evolved. We sometimes need, or we do need very often, the similar capabilities when we're out and about traveling or working from home. And that's where we have now evolved to a wonderful solution called Workflow Central. It's all about that need, that concept of being able to work from anywhere, access the tools, the capabilities when you need them through whatever device you have available to you. So if it's in the office, you can use it through the MFP and a physical document. If you're traveling or it's a digital document, you can use your mobile and your PC, because all of this is delivered through the cloud, which just gives you that accessibility from anywhere. And the difference with the Workflow Central platform versus the apps in the app gallery is that this is a bundle. This is a grouping of apps you can access effectively at any time. So what you're basically buying out is access to the platform, and then you can choose which app you use at any time, and you only pay for what you actually use and consume. So what capabilities are there? You have the ability to translate a document, convert a document into audio, take a document and put it back into its Microsoft original, whether that's PowerPoint, Excel, or Word, to be able to summarize the document, similar to the way I described earlier, to take a document that's been handwritten and put that back into a digital document, to redact, that's hide information in a document, as well as merge documents. And the beauty of this is they are single workflows or combination workflows, because sometimes the way to resolve the challenge, etc., is to actually use those together. So in the example here, you can merge documents then into a large document, then summarize it down, so it gets rid of the unnecessary, and then turn it into audio. Combine them together to key steps. Then messages you can handle physical and digital. So whatever document it is, we can deal with it, and we give you a huge amount of control over even extracting or specifying specific pages. So you're really just processing what you need, and then being able to send those on, either download, email, etc., and add security to those documents, encrypt, password, protect, etc., to make sure wherever they go next, they are safe and sound. And of course, all of this, as I said, is delivered through the cloud, which gives you that ultimate security. So let me just give you a few little sort of use cases, examples of how that can be used. So I'm one of those people that still live by the pen. I make a lot of notes. When I'm in the office, it's great when we're together collaborating and we're back to working on a whiteboard. Often at the end of those meetings, you need to take that handwritten content and convert it and share it. And now with Workflow Central, you have that easy capability of using your mobile phone, taking a photograph of that whiteboard, and then converting it into text, which makes it easy for everyone to read and share. Another great example, again, which happens a lot, is I'm working, I need to update a document, but I cannot find the original. But the good news is I found a PDF. It's difficult sometimes to work to convert a PDF, but if I can convert it back into its Microsoft format, Word or PowerPoint, then it's so much easier for me to make the adjustments that I need to do. And of course, that also could have been a physical document. I can't find the digital, but I found the physical. Same logic, walk up to an MFP, and I can convert that back into a digital file and then make all the changes I need to and ultimately share. One of the features I've used a hell of a lot in the last few years is the ability to listen to a document. In our working lives, we're bombarded with information we need to consume. Reading all the time can put strain on the eyes, etc. Sometimes listening to a document is a much better way to absorb that information. But maybe also because of the need in terms of when I'm traveling, that I don't have that time, etc., to read at that time, but I want to save it for later. So a good example would be I'm traveling. I know I'm going to be in the hotel, and I know there's a great gym there, and I need to do a bit of exercise. So what I could do is capture that document, same logic again, with my mobile phone, capture that. I could even summarize it if it's too long, reduce it down to the amount of time I've got, turn it into that audio file and listen to it when I'm in the gym, then go off and do whatever I need to do with the information from there. Very common one is, especially in, we're working in part of Europe, we have a lot of different languages around Europe. It's very common for us to receive documents in a different language to our first choice language. So what do? We can go off and go to an agency, get those converted. And if we're in the office and we have a colleague that speaks those languages. But what's even easier is to use the translate capability of Workflow Central. So again, what you can choose is up to 45 different languages to convert it to. So again, in this example, it could even be I've received multiple documents, I merge them together into one, just for simplicity, get them all translated, and then I can go and do what I need to do with all that information that comes from there. And lastly, redaction. So again, back to this world of security and sharing information, we really want to make sure we're not sharing the wrong information. So with redaction, what we can do is instantly remove that personal information or secure information, company details, etc., which we don't want to be in the outside world. Very simple to do. A few instructions on the redaction, and it'll hide and cover that information. So just a few great examples of what's possible. But I think what will make this even a little bit easier to understand, if I just quickly show you a short video. This is from a school in America, but a few examples of how they use Workflow Central to improve their processes and make the lives of the students and the parents better.
Buena Park School District is an amazing client of ours.
We are building an environment for students to be successful in, right, regardless of their economic situation.
Everything that they do is about their students and their teachers and making the learning experience better.
Right now we have about 4,100 students, but the diversity is pretty wide.
Chinese, Vietnamese, Spanish, Korean. Communication between the district and parents is very important because we do want to have our kids safe at all times. And we want to send out the correct information to parents in their language.
How can we do something better? How can we make our teachers' lives better? How can we make our education for our students better?
And the Workflow Central is one of those technology pieces that we are definitely making good use of.
The translate feature allows me not only to translate a document to Spanish or Korean, it'll let me do it in a single point click. Being able to offer an audio component to our document and have them translate and hear it in Korean or hear it in Spanish, the translated document too, not just be able to read it, is a big benefit.
DLAC stands for District English Language Advisory Committee, and we take minutes during those meetings. And they're usually 5 to 6 pages long, so I'm very excited to use Summarize in order to condense from 6 to maybe 2.
So now I can get a public record, I can use a redact tool.
It's just convenient, easy, and accurate.
That's the beauty of Workflow Central, is that there's different applications that different people will use within an organization to do their job.
I believe this district has not only done a good job communicating, it's done a really good job pivoting to meet the demands of whatever issue happened to come up next. And Workflow Central is a very big part of it. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say everybody uses it.
It saves so much time, it's accurate, and it's so easy to use. I can't speak highly enough of how much this system saves us time.
And it's a daily tool that gets used at every school site. And when it's not there, I get the phone calls.
Hope that came across okay. One of the key points in that little video was that different customers will use different workflows. The platform today has a choice of 7 different workflows. That's just about to become 10. There's a new release coming out in a few weeks' time. And the beauty of the platform is you choose what you need to use. And often there's some primary apps or primary workflows that people use. So a good example was Buena Park. They started on the key to them was that first one was the translate and the convert to audio. But because they also have access to the others, they're now finding those like the redaction one and adding that to the types of apps they use. So here's just a few other examples of different customers. Great one to point out here is Confederation of Portuguese Farmers. So this company, they have a lot of sales reps that are traveling around Europe promoting Portuguese food. Because they're traveling a lot, we're back to that point that they need to consume a lot of information. So they send a lot of documents out to them in audio format, pre-set up. And they use redact again because they're traveling and they want to make sure that the information on those documents is not exposed to others. They redact a lot of those documents they travel with. A good example over here would be this legal firm. What they have to do is build a big case file for every customer every client. So they have a lot of different documents that need to be brought together into one. So that's where they're using Convert to Microsoft and Merge to bring all those documents into one piece. And great examples, all of this. So each one is using what's relevant to them. But the beauty of the platform is the others are always available to you. And in any business, you will have different people in different departments, etc. will also have different needs. So it's one platform that really gives that capability. But the one thing with Workflow Central today is it's what it's all about is receiving a document or having a document in your hand that you need to do something with. But so you can go back and do your daily job. So it's here's the issue. Now I go to Workflow Central, I resolve it, I can get back to my job. But what we're just about to do, as well as add those incremental workflows, is also add a new capability to Workflow Central. Because sometimes those types of issues are recurring. It's the same person sends me a file in French and I need to convert it in English. Or every time a document gets stored to this cloud repository, we really want to protect it. So we want to add the security capabilities to it. So what Workflow Central will have from October is a workflow builder, which allows you effectively to set the conditions. Some of you may have heard of the term if this then that, or conditional automation. So this is where you're setting up something that says, if this happens, if I receive this email from Terry and it's in French, then convert it into English and email it to me. Or if in my cloud repository I receive a file, then please add the security to it and resave it so the file is protected. So all of this now moves from a trigger to I go do something to actually things that will run in the background. So again, another great example of how we're just simply trying to take those daily challenges away from everyone and make our working lives simpler. So at the end of the day, we can all do the value added parts of our role so much better. So thank you very much for your time today. Hopefully you've benefited or found something in here of value to you. But see, what it's all about is trying to just make our working lives easier. So remove those challenges, remove those pains, remove those unnecessary steps from workflows by adopting the value of an app, which just simplifies things down into a little bit of code that just takes away those pains, or the value of the cloud, which just makes it more accessible and more powerful to get a lot of this work done. So hopefully you can adopt and make your working lives easier. So with that, I'll stop and see if there's any questions. Really good question. And the answer to that is, if you take something like redaction is very accurate, because what you're doing is you're being very specific in terms of if you find this word or this phrase or this type of information, go hide it. So that is where the OCR capability comes in. It's reading that exact word and knows therefore to cover it. That's really accurate. When you go to the other end of the scale, and the one you mentioned was handwriting. Well, if you look at my handwriting, I look at your handwriting, it's not like looking at a font, which is consistent. We all have our own variables and etc. So that's not using OCR, that is using artificial intelligence. So it's reading it, it's interpreting it. And the nature of that today is it's learning. So it gets better and better, but it's still interpreting. So it's not 100%. It will be good. But the beauty again of this is because it's turned it into a digital document, it's then very simple to tweak it, to go back and you'll see, you know, it misinterpreted an A for an O, etc., and I can quickly correct it. So I would say with those, it's good, but it needs a little bit of tweaking. Translation is another one of those ones that comes into that same category. Translating a document, the beauty of translation here is it retains the format of the document, but translation, again, it's machine translation. It's not a human has gone over it, but that's what you can do if I'm translating it into English from French, I will interpret the English and I can quickly adjust it if I need to. So this is an expression I don't like, but it's good enough for most purposes. If you are going to send it to someone and it's a business letter, what you may want to do is to get someone with that language skill just to double check and tweak it, just improve it. But it's all about, again, simplifying, made more so than putting it into perfection with these types of processes. Yeah.
So thank you very much for your time, Mark. That was very, very informative, as I say. As I say, recordings will be going out to everyone. Any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. Contact details will be on the correspondence. So thanks very, very much for everyone's time.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Cheerio.
Thanks. Bye.